I wrote The Pressured Child because I was concerned about parents who seem to have a model for childhood which doesn't conform to mine. I was at a little school, elementary school in West Los Angeles, and the head of school said to me, "Would you talk to my 6th grade?" It ended in 6th grade. I said, "Why?" And he said, "My 6th grade is so anxious." I said, "About what?" And he said, "The ISEEs, the next school tests, huh?" And he said, "I think almost all of the kids in my class are getting tutored." So I went in, there were 23 6th graders sitting there, and I said, "How many of you have a test prep tutor?" And 21 of them raised their hands. And I said, "Well, tell me what's average test prep?" And they said, 2 hours during the week and 2 hours on Saturday morning. So 4 hours of test prep a week. Now, this isn't going to go on forever. It's just for the fall. But it's still 4 hours a week. So I said to the kids, "And how many of you have a subject tutor, a second tutor?" And 12 of them raised their hands. And I said, "Well, how many of you have 3 tutors?" And 2 kids raised their hand. There was a very sort of organized-looking girl in the front row, and there was a very spacey boy in the back. And I like spacey boys, so I called on him, and I said, "Tell me about your tutors." And he said, "Well, I have a test prep tutor, and then I have a reading tutor, because I'm not all that good at reading, and I don't like it that much. And then I have a, he said, "I can't remember what the 3rd tutor's for." It turned out this little boy had tutor 6 days a week. And I said to him, "If you weren't being tutored so much, what would you do?" And he said, "I'd love to ride my bike." And so I took a risk and told the story that night at that school. And risking that his parents might be in the audience. And they indeed were. And his mom got my email, and she wrote me, and she said, "It was very poignant to hear my son's life described by you." Because she said, "I grew up in a small town. I rode my bike to school. I always had time to ride my bike." She said, "I was so moved by your talk, I went home and fired 2 of the tutors." The kids don't come to school thinking, "Oh, I'm going to get into a good college, and my parents are going to be so impressed." And they're thinking, "How do I survive this day, this test, this homework assignment that I didn't really get through? I'm hoping I won't be called on." Right? It's very, very short term. And you're uncomfortable, and it's confusing, and it's over. One 8th grade boy at American school in London, I was talking to them about this, and I said, "Well, is there anything," we talked about pressure when I was writing The Pressured Child, and I said, "Is there anything you'd like me to say to your teachers?" And an 8th grade boy said, "Yeah." He said, "Could you tell them like not every course is like the center of the world?" You remember school? You remember? It's exhausting. It's like Alice in Wonderland. You're big, you're small, you're, little doors, big doors. And it's like, whoa. But no sane person will ever go back to school. I mean, adults say, "I'd love to go back to school." You mean college or graduate school. First class, 9 o'clock, then coffee with your friends. And, nobody wants to go back to middle school, because it's actually objectively hard, but we think it's natural for kids. And what's amazing is when you follow kids through school and they have great teaching, you're just so grateful for it. Great teaching, there's nothing like it. Teacher who lifts everybody's game and fun and makes the time pass. You're just ridiculously happy. And not so good teaching is painful. And teaching is, if you want to remember how hard teaching is, follow a child to school, because it'll give you an appreciation what it's like to motivate a group of kids day after day about a subject, and simply trying to scare them doesn't work.